I am Melanie Pierce. I'm the principal of Woodward. And then I also want to introduce Jason Hurd, who is the new, 4 days into the job, principal at Cross Keys. And Jason was a teacher, so I'm surprised he stopped here because Jason was a teacher for how many years?
12 years.
12 years here at Woodward, and his classroom used to be 2 doors down to the left, so we're lucky he stopped here and didn't, out of habit, go straight down to the math class. But so we're super excited. This is my 3rd year at Woodward. However, I was principal at Carey Reynolds for 10 years before that. So I've been in the cluster for a while. Jason in the cluster for a while, so we're excited.
I actually went to Carey Reynolds.
Okay, so even better. How about that? Tons of connections.
And again, you know, I've been in this community for a long time. I spent 12 years right down the hall. I received an AP position at Druid Hills, and now I'm back at Cross Keys as principal. So I'm excited to work with you all and to join the community, or return back to the community, actually.
So anyway, we decided not to do a really formal welcome and give you all the boring stats of our schools. We thought maybe pictures would say a little more. So this is just running pictures of some of the great things that go on in our cluster. Some of the things that we are hoping you will see in these pictures are students engaged, students who are not in rows, students who are smiling, who are outside learning with journals, who are making water slides during our summer science camp. We do a lot with each other with Cross Keys. That was one of the things when I was moved to Woodward. I'm like, the high school's right there. What do we do at the high school? So we're really excited. We actually have 2 classes, I think, we're still working on one, early childhood. But there were about 40 students yesterday, and they come 2 days a week, who come over and volunteer in our classrooms as part of their entrepreneurship class. So it is awesome. We do a lot as cluster principals. We meet with the entire cluster once a month to do a lot of things that, number one, to kind of brainstorm and collaborate on issues or events that we want to do cluster-wide. And it's super, super effective. We hope you are looking at our teachers who are engaged as well. Our teachers work, and I'll tell you, and I know I can speak on behalf of the entire cluster, because one of the things that I tell every single person I interview is there are easier schools out there. And I let them know 100% of your energy is just simply not enough at a school where 99% of the kids are free and reduced lunch and 97 come from a family where English is not the first language. So I share that up front, and I say, do you still want to continue, or do you want to go ahead? And so the commitment on the teacher's level is awesome. Some of the highlights that the teachers, our highlight last year was our 5th grade. One of the teachers had a semester-long math project where they, and our students aren't real into American football, and so they studied SEC football and all the stats of the football players. And then this 5th grade teacher was able to get enough backing to take the entire 5th grade to UGA. And they had a tour of the school. They met with the admissions officers, met the football team. One of the players, Chris Conley, I don't know how many Georgia fans are here, but he came and spoke with us. We got to go on the field. We got to go in the locker room. But it was just such a great opportunity. And college is something we're really working on cluster-wide, just because it's not an expectation. And so you may see that we've taken groups of parents to Emory before and had the group of parents meet with Emory admissions officers to tell them this can happen. We're hoping that you see the involvement of the parents. I don't know if there's a perception out there that the parents are not involved. They are involved. And what we work on, again, cluster-wide, is trying to educate our parents. They will come do anything for us. So we try to structure it a little more where we're getting them. One thing that we do here with our parents is we have an instructional meeting once a month, And then we take groups of parents, we have student leaders, and we take groups of parents into classrooms for, we call it an instructional focus walk. So they're in the classroom learning what their child is doing. And we know that kind of improves the communication at home, because then the parent is like, well, I was in this class, what's that star folder thing? Am I supposed to sign that every night? So it's a work in progress. We know our work is never done. Jason's 4 days into the job, so and he doesn't have any hair, but you can see my big gray stripe here. I'm still trying to get the county to pay for my hair color, but they're not yet.
What percent of your parents have participated?
Do they participate?
What percent of your parents do you think participate? Because what you just said is a really key issue here in CAD, where we've got people, English isn't their primary language, is to get the parents involved. So I was just curious.
Look, I'm looking at you.
You got a ballpark number?
Our cafeteria is full on Wednesday mornings of parents at parent meetings. I mean, they come, and we're trying to meet them. We know they want to be in the class. I mean, we average about 150 for a parent meeting. They're wonderful, and I can give you. Well, you know, I mean, we do try to make it very welcoming. A couple things, there are two things I can tell you, and this is back in Carrie Reynolds. You know, I had a teacher, oh, their babies all cry at meetings. I'm like, I don't care, I can talk loud. You said you needed me to talk loud. I'm like, I can talk louder than crying babies. They need to be here. We can't say they can't bring siblings. We do have a lot of language barriers, honestly, and it's a struggle. And Ms. Brixton, our Region 1 supervisor, is aware of that. But that's, you know, but anything that we can do to continue to welcome parents. But one of the things, and I think it was someone at the Latin American Association shared last year, they said, and I take this as one of the biggest compliments ever, they said, oh, parents just feel so respected at Woodward now. And I mean, that's good. I can go home. My job's done. But no, and that's what we want. We want to value. We know they want to be in the school. You know, honestly, when I got here, they used to kind of just come be in the school all the time. And I'm like, well, you got to get out of the classroom. We got stuff to do. So we try to, you know, we're creating this year a Shadow Me Day. So the parents can shadow their student for a couple hours and really see what goes on. So we want them in, but we want it structured, and we want to make it a learning experience for the parents. And I will say again, you know, we have ways that they can get credit for cleaning on the weekends. And we had a custodian out last year for a while, and the parents said, what can we do? What can we do? You know, let us in. So I mean, they're awesome. They're absolutely awesome. So yeah, parental involvement is not an issue at all. And I would say that's pretty much cluster-wide. You know, as you go into the middle school and the high school. And then one thing we're working on, we started this maybe 5 years ago. We noticed that they're so afraid of the middle and the high school. So we started doing a lot in the middle and the high school. So we do, in November 7th, it's coming up. If anyone, you're all welcome. Jason just found out about it this week, and it is at his school. But we do a cluster parent conference where we get all the schools together in the cluster. And it's a conference where they have choice sessions to go to, whether it's math, whether it's, you know, this year one of the issues that we're seeing is the cutting. So that's going to be a session this year. It's anything that's going on. We've offered immigration, we've offered gangs before. Always instructional, and then they have 3 choices. But the most important part of that is getting them in the high school, because they get there and they're like, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous in here, and the kids aren't walking around. You know, I mean, the kids are in classrooms, the halls are clean, it's ordered. So it's just a great opportunity to get all the parents together and for them to see. So the purpose of today, this started off small, so it started off informal, and I didn't realize it was on a spirit day, so, but we just kind of, so many people are always asked, number one, it was to get you all in the school, because that's my trick, because most people, when they get in the school, they're like, oh, the kids, they're so cute, what do you need, what can I do here? So that was one purpose of today's meeting. We also, a lot of people that we talk to in different situations, are always like, what can we do to support? So it's kind of just telling you all at once some of the things that we would love for support, but then as well, because I always find myself where I'm like, well, how can we be a better neighbor? And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. But we want this to be a partnership. with Woodward, with Cross Keys, and with the whole cluster. So, I mean, many of you, and the support can range from, you know, I know St. James, not St. James, Brookhaven United Methodist. Where did I just, I know they were just here. Yeah, it was, and so they're represented there. But I mean, he did us a huge favor the other day and drove a parent somewhere where we needed help. I mean, so it can range from donations of books to donations of money to coming in reading to, you know, expert teachers in certain areas, guest speakers in the high school. I mean, anything. And then we also thought it would be a good idea to get you all together because, and I think that was already happening, maybe some networking amongst yourselves. And I know that was happening because I couldn't even get you all to sit down. So anyway, that's kind of today's purpose. Again, it is informal. This sheet I created just for some of the things that we look for at Woodward. And then when Jason came on board, we're so excited to be working together again. So we're like, oh, come on over, let's kind of, so there's not a ton cross keys, but there really is. As they always need tutors and readers and anything. So this just gives you some ideas. I don't know if you guys want to quickly introduce yourselves as well, just to kind of know who's here. Because I know last year when we did this, there were only about 6 people here who came last year. So thank you all again. But just to kind of know who's here. Because I know last year, even with those 6 people who attended, there was a good bit of networking. So, or we get, you want to go just right around real quick? I know you already know Jason.
Jason Hurd, principal at Cross Keys.
I'm Bill Smith. I'm with the Rotary Club of Brookhaven.
I'm Marshall Orson. I'm a member of the DeKalb County Board of Education.
I'm Terrell Karstens, Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce.
Kerry Witt, Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce.
Bates Madison, Brookhaven City Council.
Jennifer Barzak, Branch Manager, Brookhaven Library.
I'm Esther Graff Radford. I'm the lay leader at Brookhaven United Methodist Church.
I'm Armando Del Bosque from Mi Pizza. It's a pizza store up the road.
I'm Tom Silveria with the Rotary Club of Brookhaven.
Joe Gebbia, Councilman for District 4, which is Woodward Elementary School right here.
I'm Todd Lantier. I'm the Chairman of the Board of the Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce.
Howard Miller, Brookhaven Police Department, Support Services.
Tyrone Oliver, Brookhaven Police Department, Criminal Investigation Division.
Juan Grullon, I'm the Major of a Patrol Division with the Brookhaven Police Department.
I'm Gary Andura, the Chief of Brookhaven Police Department.
I'm Marilyn Humphreys. I represent St. James Methodist over on Peachtree Dunwoody, and we hope to be involved in various ways.
Mary Novotny, I'm the President of the Fairway Estates of Lenox Park Homeowners Association.
I'm Patrick Lewis. I'm here with the Brookhaven Rotary Club, and I also work for the Boy Scouts, so I have a lot to do with our various packs and troops right here in Brookhaven.
I'm Fran Miller. I'm the State Senator for this area.
Good morning, Casey Dudak with the Brookhaven Chamber.
Good morning, Kim Gritcher with the Cross Keys Foundation and a proud Woodward parent. Go Cats.
Julie Koryakin, YMCA of Metropolitan Atlanta, Cross Keys Foundation, and North Atlanta Rotary.
Kristen Gercha, proud Woodward parent, and on school council as well.
I'm Catherine Hondard. My company, Salesforce.com, is really interested in volunteer opportunities.
I'm Laura Stevenson. I'm with the Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce Education Committee, and I'm also the Chief Judge of the Municipal Court.
Peter Yang, Cross Keys Sustainable Neighborhood Initiative.
David Schaefer, Latin American Association.
Angelica Rosso, Region 1 Parent Center Facilitator.
Rebecca Stewart, Oglethorpe University Center for Civic Engagement.
So that's kind of, I know Brookhaven wanted to follow this meeting as well, but that's kind of all. I just kind of wanted to get you guys together and give you an overview and spread the word as much as you can. But if anyone has any questions for us.
I have a question. My question is really Marshall Orson. I'm not familiar. I've watched the Dunwoody Shamley Parents Council for schools. I've watched the Emery La Vista Parents Council. I've watched both of these organizations drop off in attendance dramatically over the last few years. And in fact, when I go to these meetings, it disturbs me that we're not getting participation from the parents. Instead, we usually have more people from the county there than we do from the parents. My question is this: based upon what they're doing in this cluster here, how many of our clusters are doing this? Like right where I live, in Dunwoody, for example, or the schools, you know, that feed into the, how many clusters are doing this kind of cooperation that they're doing between these schools and the high school, and where they get together and they get the parents together? Because she's absolutely right. You can draw the graph. As the kid gets older, the attendance goes down from the parents through elementary school, middle school, high school. So what are we doing? Are we doing anything like this to take this as a model, just something this simple, and get these people together so they get engaged from the various levels? I don't know anybody else is doing this. That's why I'm asking the question.
There's great variability. As we know, the Druid Hills cluster has been organized, and beyond the charter itself. I mean, there's been very close cooperation between particularly the high school and middle school, because that's often our weak link is going through the middle school. Right. In part because it's just a treacherous time for everybody, kids, parents, and so we've seen some of that. There is a little bit of that in Dunwoody, but we have not, as a county, supported those efforts, and I think we do. I happen to be, the charter again aside, a proponent of the idea of organizing around clusters, because it's really a K-12 experience.
Right.
And I think, we shouldn't do it because we perceive a certain crisis or existential need because we have a high poverty rate and high ESL rate. It really makes sense around building communities. So I do think there's modeling that can happen here, but I would note, these are only 2 of the schools in the cluster. I mean, there are other schools in this cluster, and building upon that, I think, is a logical way for us to reach a number of students, and also to sort of even out capacity where there may be a more engaged community in one school, a less engaged community in another. We need to be helping to develop that capacity. I think the cluster level makes the most sense. And your point about the parent council, because I think that's important, and I would share this, one of our challenges, I think, which has been unfair to Cross Keys, is it's been left on, the Cross Keys cluster has been left an island. I mean, by geography, it should be part of the Dunwoody-Chamblee because of where it's assigned in terms of Region 1, and it hasn't. And I think that is something that it's not a board issue, because the parent councils really are organic and they're self-governed, but I think it is important that we also build continuity and connections between this cluster and the other clusters. And I think historically, for us to be honest, we have neglected the Cross Keys cluster at a level that's really unacceptable and really unimaginable. And so I think that's one of the things that I encourage all of you, not only in your support for these individual schools, because these are important, but we need to build a bigger presence, because I think out of a very deep sense of equity and fairness, we need to be doing it.
And I can, only because the Dunwoody and Chamblee are in our region, those principals do get together on a monthly basis as well, and are doing things vertically.
Yeah, I was thinking more about parents.
Parents, yeah.
No,
I don't know.
I don't see it.
I don't know. So. Any other questions for us?
Another question, probably Kim can answer this, is does the Cross Keys Foundation support this elementary school?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can I give a huge yes?
Thank you for the question. That was a softball, wasn't it?
No, it was just...
If you're curious, it's we're chartered technically for the 7 attendance area schools, which include Sequoia Middle School, Cary Reynolds, Oak Cliff Elementary, Dresden Elementary, Montclair Elementary, and Woodward Elementary, in addition to the high school. We secretly also help Path Academy, because many of our students take the through Path and return to Cross Keys instead of through Sequoia. So technically 7 schools, but we're happy to help anyone in the Cross Keys region.
In fact, there's a little free library out front as part of the foundation's effort as well.
Hi, I have a question, I guess, about leadership continuity. I think at least on the foundation board, we've had a lot of discussion about the fact that a lot of our principals turn over, and there can't be good continuity if you're constantly switching principals in this cluster. So can you speak to that a little bit, because the things that are not tolerated in other clusters because of strong parental support tend to go by without anybody ever complaining about it. And so we've tried to be a little bit more vocal about that, but can you speak to that and help us understand?
Well, So to be clear, the principal assignments are in the purview of the administration, but from a philosophical standpoint, it's interesting that some of us were talking about this at breakfast. It is important to have that continuity. I mean, I think it's clear that we not only have to have continuity in the leadership, but we need to have strong leaders that we want to have in those positions for a long time, right? Because you can have a school where you have a long-term principal and it doesn't necessarily do any good for the community. And we have examples of that, unfortunately. But where we have strong leaders and we allow them to spend sufficient time in those buildings, I think then we can develop really changes in what happens in those buildings. I will say with Superintendent Thurman that he's been mindful about that in principal assignments. You have a new principal here who came out of this community, which I think was an important attribute of that. And he doesn't, let me be clear, he doesn't clear it with the board, right? That is in his purview. But in studying what he does, I think it was an important indicator that somebody who came back into this community knew this community, right? That's going to be part of that continuity, is not dropping people in who have no clue, no connection, and no real long-term interest. And I don't mean to be dismissive of that, but it's very hard, particularly if you're in an environment where people are constantly moving around. What I don't know what will happen is what happens post Superintendent Thurman, because we will be looking for a new superintendent. But I think I'm, from a board level, to speak with my fellow board members about us trying to, we can't really reduce it to policy, but from a philosophical statement about that continuity and strong leadership. Now, I will add one other thing, that one of the grants that we just got from the Wallace Foundation, which is about strengthening both regional superintendents and principal leadership as sort of a key to successful schools. And the Wallace Foundation, if you're not aware, it's a grant that we could receive up to $3 million. And it is not a fly-by-night grant. The Wallace Foundation is a very serious grantor that is focused on educational reform. I've dealt with the Wallace Foundation in other contexts when I was a volunteer in the city of Atlanta. And they are serious about not only providing money, but about benchmarking results. And so my expectation is about that investment, which is a 4-year plan, will really strengthen that level of management that really affects you day to day. So I'm optimistic in that regard. But to your point, you also need to make your voices heard. I mean, it is unacceptable, and we have had a history of moving principals around on a fairly regular basis in a way that I think is unhealthy for our schools. And we've also created disincentives for principals to stay in their schools, right? And the goal has been to get to the central office. And I liken our principals to the captains in the Army. You know, I don't mean to put it on a war footing, but those are the people who really get the job done. They're in the field. They're dealing with the day-to-day of what happens in our institutions, and we need to be committed, and you need to hold us accountable to make sure we do that.
Marshall, one of the things I can attest to Dunwoody being as a new principal, he grew up in the Dunwoody community and was brought back to be the principal there. And the other thing, too, which Michael Thurman has done to his credit, probably the best leadership in this state as respects schools. Leadership Academy is what Gwinnett County has done. They actually have a leadership institute out there, and their HR people run a program where they be training these people over a number of years to become these various steps so that they become principals. And Michael Thurman, to his credit, is going to try to take some of those practices and try to put them into DeKalb. It's probably the best model going out there at Gwinnett. But again, Michael has adopted that as well. So I do think, I think DeKalb's going to quit being, I'm a Methodist, so DeKalb's going to quit being like Methodist and move to preachers every 3 years.
So that's what I just said at breakfast, but that's so politically incorrect. So there's Fran here.
We can't
but
we can't afford it either, so
right.
Methodists can't, I guarantee you can.
No, but it is true. We did move them on a regular basis, and I never quite understood that. This sort of idea that we would rotate people through and maybe they could do something good at a school for a short time, but you really need longevity in a building. There's probably a point where people are there too long, but you need sufficient time to be able to build a solid foundation. And one of the things I'm also supportive of, and it was again what we were talking about at breakfast, is us creating plans even within our schools for continuity. So if Melanie's here for 7 years.
I said 7 years.
7 years.
As long as the superintendent will have me.
The real key is for when she decides she wants to do something else, and she's offered an opportunity, that there's a plan for continuity for what happens. That foundation doesn't evaporate overnight because of one person leaving the building. And so I think we haven't built that necessarily into the culture, but by bringing people back in who are from communities, I think we have a better chance. But that sustainability piece is also going to be important, because we need strong leaders, but we can't have our schools live or die on the presence or absence of a single individual, because that will not be a healthy situation for the school system in the long term.
You pointed out that the poverty rate for families whose students attend this school is 99%, and the ESL rate is 97%. But the catchment area for this school does not, I don't think the demographics quite reflect that. There are a lot of people out there who are not within either of those categories. Do you have any figures on what the wider community looks like that is assigned to this school, and where are those people going?
I personally don't. I don't know, but our goal. We had something similar at Carrie Reynolds within the neighborhood of all the when my first time I drove Carrie Reynolds, I'm like, with these houses. I mean, how are our kids 99% at apartments when the school is surrounded by all these houses?
These neighborhoods that are immediately to our northwest over here run between $500,000 and $1 million.
Private schools, from my understanding, from the people I've met, or a lot of them just don't have children.
It's a pervasive issue in our county. You know, this is not the only neighborhood. Part of my district includes this area. I live over near Emory, and we have that in parts, some of our schools that are in the Druid Hills cluster in the same situation. You know, I've always felt, and I saw this again because I was very active before I realized, hey, I live in DeKalb and I should figure out what's going to DeKalb schools because that's where my children are going. With Atlanta schools, Atlanta had a very similar situation. I was on their strategic planning committee 20-something years ago. And really the demographics from a socioeconomic status were similar to where we are now, quite frankly. And one of the conclusions that we developed as a group is that the best way to bring people back in the system is to deliver results in our schools, right? That you can beg, plead, tell people it's their social obligation, you know, their moral obligation. The way people will come back is when they think that the return, what they're getting for putting their children in those schools is valuable. And so at a certain level, I think the way we're going to get people to buy back into the vision of the school is by showing that the kids who come to the school are getting great results. There's nothing else we can do. You can't force people to go. They will make personal decisions. My children go to public school. I have a child in middle school. Again, the dreaded time of life for any parent or family. You know, and again, it has to do. So this is a Fran Miller statement. I mean, it has to do with middle schools are full of middle school kids, and that's probably the biggest challenge that's out there. But if we get good results, I think you will see people come back into the schools, and that is the only way we'll ever get them back in.
I can speak a little bit just on the demographics answer. The city of Brookhaven did a demographic study, and we have a very diverse population in the city of Brookhaven. About 30% Hispanic and Latino, 60% white, and about 10% are rest black and others. So this area right here has, you're correct, there is a large portion of single-family homes that is relatively high income. I'd echo Marshall Orson in saying, look, there's a perception issue at this school that those parents are not choosing to send their kids here. I think that really speaks to, you know, something that's going to have to change over time. But I also think that you need to, you know, deliver the results for the school and the students. And my question is about, you know, do you feel as a principal you've got enough flexibility to create a specialized program to fit the needs of the students you do have so that you can get those results?
Yeah, I mean, I think moving to a charter school district, or I probably have that wording incorrect, but we'll even have more. But I've always felt very, you know, and I know that the question was about longevity. I mean, I was at Carrie Reynolds for 10 years, and no, and I was asked to come to Woodward, and I think I secretly kind of wanted to be asked. I was getting to where, okay, I've done a lot here, I'm ready. So I think the district does see that, but I feel very supported. I love, in our region, Ms. Brixton supports us wholeheartedly to do things as a cluster, to meet, you know, God forbid a principal gets, you know, principals get an hour for lunch to go have a meeting and plan things for our cluster. And we do have that flexibility to do that, which is wonderful.
Do you have curriculum flexibility here at the school that's unique from the rest of the Kemp County system? Or is it one?
No. No. I mean, you know, we're working towards the, no. I mean, we're all, we're Common Core.
Right.
You know, everything's
right.
Common Core.
And let me just add, because I know that people talk about flexibility in a lot of different contexts, and we're looking at some certain decisions about our district. We look at it more micro level in terms about clusters. You look at what's perceived to be a successful system like Gwinnett, and they are very stringent on what the gateway curriculum, you can go beyond the curriculum, but that's your floor. And you have to, because we are accountable under various measurements in the state. So we're teaching a curriculum that doesn't match up with the state benchmarks. All we're going to see is abject failure, even if we think we've educated our kids. That is the reality of the environment we're in. The real value, this is something I probably shouldn't say as a board member, is that we have principals who push through whatever bureaucracy, whatever rules that may, even if they were well-intended, get in the way to get results.
Just call me a rule breaker.
I didn't say that. I just say they push through. They find a way to work around the rules, not break the rules. But I do think it's true in any work. I mean, I came out of the corporate world. I mean, it's true in any environment, quite frankly, right? Again, even if those rules were well-intended, the rigidity of rules are such that they inhibit innovation and creativity and sometimes success, because they were drafted in such a way because we wanted to norm something, but in the end they often get in the way, particularly because they can't address every situation. So again, I will probably get admonished when I go back to my next meeting, but we need principals who understand that and have the fortitude to do that, to get results in the building. Because at the end of the day, what we do as assistants is we measure by what we do for the children in the buildings who attend our schools.
And I will say real quick, I think someone was asking about getting more kids, and I was sharing with a few of you. I mean, my goal when I got to Woodward was there are great things, and there always have been great things going on here. And I challenged the teachers. I'm like, whatever your conversation is at Publix, that's what people are going to know about this school. So, there's every school that was built in 1958, the air conditioning breaks. It happens. It happens at Austin. It happens everywhere. So if you want to go to Publix and complain about that, that's what the public is going to know. But if you want to talk about this great trip that we had to UGA and that it was sponsored by Crystal and then talk about that. And then the excitement of the kids who now all want to go to University of Georgia, which I think they owe us some kickback from all of that, then that's what you should go, because that's slowly what's going to change the reputation.
Melanie, I just want to go to Mary's question. The question was about enrollment in attendance area. So let me ask a couple of questions and enlighten us. What's your current instructional capacity for Woodward Elementary?
As in how many students can we?
What is the county documented capacity of Woodward? Approximately.
I don't know,
Sorry.
But I know we have 1,100 kids.
That's why I'm not a lawyer, right? I should ask a question. So I think it's on the order of 700 to 800.
We're not supposed to have all those straight. I mean, but yes, it is way above capacity.
How many do you have currently enrolled?
Almost 1,100.
Do you need more students?
No, we don't need more students, but we'll take anyone who comes.
Absolutely. So I think the question about our attendance area enrollment is almost a moot point. You're not recruiting students, are you?
No.
Would you have a place to put them if you had a student?
We would find a place, yes.
I love that answer. So as a parent of Woodward, I just want to make sure that it's clear that great education happens at Woodward just like every elementary school in this county, if a student and a family want it. And as a parent of a Woodward student who is already aware at 8 years old that he has to fund his own education fund, we secretly have a 529. But as far as he's concerned, he has to fund his own education. And your teachers, your staff under your leadership have set the tone of expectation. You're a scholar and you're here to learn. And that's had an impact on my own son. So I just want to make it really clear that there's no shortage of students at Woodward and there's no shortage of academic achievement at Woodward. These are non-issues to me. Non-issues. Then quickly, while I have the microphone, I apologize. You've got a list here. We're here to consider these individually. And I think the next step is for us to write our name and our email at the top and indicate an area of interest we might be able to help or refer you to help for Woodward. So as a volunteer with a foundation that supports Woodward and the other 6 attendance area schools, I want to make sure to emphasize that to everyone here. And in the same breath, thank every single one of you for being here. I've met many of you over the years in various capacities for your own good works in our community and here at Woodward. So I want to personally thank you on behalf of the community and the foundation volunteers. For those who aren't sure, when you leave here today, what you may do or may be able to do in the future. And if you lose this piece of paper, Woodward will be here, Melanie will be here, and so will the Cross Keys Foundation, and so will Mr. Hurd at Cross Keys. And if you go to nowhere else, if you remember nothing else, this is a shameless pitch. CrossKeysFoundation.org has a list of syndicated classroom needs from all the schools of this attendance area. So if you take this and forget it, it gets lost on your refrigerator, go to that website. You will find listings for Woodward Elementary. You'll find listings for Cross Keys, listings for Sequoia, Cary Reynolds, Montclair, Dresden, and Oak Cliff. So please remember CrossKeysFoundation.org, and please accept my sincere gratitude for everyone that's here. A lot of you have done amazing things quietly. The continuity that we talked about and the ability to have sustainability in that area is one of the reasons the foundation exists. Whether Melanie, heaven forbid, doesn't make her 7 years, whether I win the lottery and retire to the Turkish coast, somebody at the foundation will take that phone call, is all I'm saying.
Can I add one thing to what just came in, what Melanie said? I mean, I think part of it is, and I think that's very true, the narrative has to change, right? There's great results we're getting in our schools. Again, this is a problem we have that's broader than the schools even in this cluster. But the perception, part of it engendered by our previous board, part of it engendered by dysfunction of the system at the time, part of it engendered by, because we're in DeKalb County and there's never good news about DeKalb County. The reality is, we do stay at the school board, thank God for the county commission, because it keeps us off the front pages these days.
Clayton County says it every week.
Right, exactly. There's a pecking order. But I think it is important that the narrative has to change, and you all are in that best position. I mean, that's not excusable. There's lots of ground we have to cover everywhere. We are not going to be satisfied until we have what is success for every child in our system. But there are results happening in our schools, but we allow the narrative out there to be co-opted in a way that it's related as failure, and that is grossly unfair to the work that's being done by our principals and teachers in these schools, by the parents who are involved, and most importantly by the children in these schools. And so you can be also the message carriers. I mean, again, we expect you to hold us all accountable and to continue to push us to do even better, but there are successes out there, and success does breed success to a certain extent, right? By changing the narrative to accurately reflect what's going on, not the speculation. I mean, I'm a middle school parent, so it's the classic, if you haven't been a middle school parent, that people, no matter what middle school, people are always slamming the middle school before they get there. It's the worst place possible. And often it's parents who then decide to exit the system to go somewhere else because they're so fearful of middle school, and it leaves this narrative behind that is unfair. I had one kid who has finished going middle school and high school, and one is there now. Rudolph's Middle School, they're getting a very good education. But you could ask people, even in my neighborhood, who would say it's the worst place on earth, and they'd have all sorts of reasons that are unrelated to the facts on the ground. And so I think these principals need your help in that regard to make sure that accurate stories about what's going on in these schools are really conveyed in the broader community.
And I'm sure I can speak for Jason as well. You all are invited here at any time. If you have any questions on there about anything, what is this? Let us know. You know, if you want to meet with just my leadership, just Jason's leadership team, come on in, let us know. We'll have you in. We meet as cluster principals once a month if you ever want to join that. I mean, just come on in. That's what I feel changes the reputation and the perception, is just coming in and hanging out. So that you could volunteer just by hanging out, anything. But yeah, we love.
What do you guys need the most? Like time, people, money,
all of the
technology.
No, but seriously, and anything, and that's kind
that
of
was
what.
Your question, wasn't it?
No, I mean we have we can do all this stuff on the list. We have lots
Okay,
of
check it all
resources.
now.
We have
But seriously, and that's why I kind of, because I think people are like, oh, do I have to come in and read every Tuesday? No, I mean, if you want to write a $20 check, that's great. I mean, you know, so my kids go to Austin Elementary in Dunwoody, and she's like, oh, I did lunch for my staff again today. Oh my gosh. But that's because a parent wrote her a $10,000 check and said, do whatever you want with it, you know? So.
Do you have a school sponsor here? Like somebody like a Salesforce.com? Do you have anybody like that?
I don't need, God, I can't believe I'm saying. So no, we don't have, I mean, I think we have a few official.
Oh, that's interesting for Salesforce.
I would love to do that.
Okay.
Let's keep talking.
It's old. But yeah, I mean, we kind of take in whatever. I can speak for myself, and I don't try to get too official and too pomp and circumstance. Obviously, I'm wearing jeans today. But, you know, just whatever works for you and for us and for kids, most importantly. You know, if you want to tutor one child, we kind of, I'm known, and I know Kim will agree, I'm kind of known as the yes woman. Anything, hey, can we do this? Yes. You know, and so if it's bringing people in, if it's a program, if it's, let's do it if it's good for kids. So, and anything here we can always use. And then if you have a better idea. I mean, I'm looking around, you know, Armando comes every Tuesday and sells pizza to the kids, and it just goes right into the PTA. That's so helpful. You know what I mean? And that's something easy. So it just, anything. So, yeah, if you have information that you want to share and leave the pink sheets here, we would love that. I told Jason that we'll make copies, and so we'll both have your information. If you want to take the blank ones and get them out, I have business cards around. County couldn't get Jason's printed in 4 days, so he will have some. And you're welcome to hang out, have a few munchkins, and still talk. And, absolutely.
Good.
Oh.
How about a round of applause? I'd like to just say two things and then offer a challenge. This is great. I was disappointed to hear you say that you only had 6 people here last year. Okay, when you called me a couple weeks ago and said you want to put this together, I helped put a message out, and I'm really...
You sure did.
Yeah, I love the response. This is the way it should be. We've got LAA here. We've got CPACs. We have our state senator. Thank you, Fran, for coming. We have the Rotary Club. We have the police force. We have the city. We've got independent businesses. We have the Chamber of Commerce. We have religious institutions here. Did I miss anybody?
Library.
Library, right. Thank you very much.
Not for profit.
And I'm sorry? Oh, and the Cross Keys Foundation and the YMCA.
Oglethorpe.
That's right. Yeah, this is fantastic. The objective here, obviously, before we break and do our networking, is to do whatever we can as a community to enhance the educational system here. So when we were running for office, first year, one of the most often asked questions we had was, what can you do to help improve the educational system? And at that time, that wasn't part of our charter. Well, this is what we can do. We can help assist with a really valuable principle to bring the community together. So now what I'd like to do is offer a challenge. These pink sheets that you have, and Melanie's being very kind. I'm a salesman, so I go for the clothes. Okay. Let's make a commitment to adopt one of these. Let's not just say, okay, I'll do this. And you have organizations now, Todd and Carrie. We, with the business community, I mean, it's already being exemplified here. What was the name of the pizza company?
It's My Pizza.
My Pizza. Excellent. Let's make a commitment to adopt this and become a part of the program. We're going to do this again, probably next year at least. And we'll do follow-up and hopefully grow it from there. But so that's the challenge I have for you. Let's not just say, okay, well, maybe we'll come in and read once a week. Let's take the organizations that we're a part of and make this a bigger win for the kids. That's what it's all about. So lastly, what I'd like to say is after this, about 10:30, we're going to do a ribbon cutting outside. We'd like to have you all come back out to the road. We're going to be acknowledging and celebrating the improvements that were made along Curtis Road. And for some of you that have just driven up, you've seen it. Well, the city did that. As a councilman, we have a budget where we can use it at our discretion of where we want to make improvements, and I chose the Woodward Elementary School and Cross Keys section up here. And the purpose of this is to make it a safer environment for the children that walk from this school. And 80% of the kids here walk back and forth between the schools.
We have 500 walkers.
That's a huge amount. And what you're going to see out there, not only is just a repaved road and new street commerce, we put in the flashing lights to warn the traffic coming. We put up new signs. We did the sidewalk around the curve in an elevated sidewalk wall, which is pretty unique. We did repairs on the other side that were cracked. We re-curbed. I mean, it's what we can be doing as a city to work in concert with the board, the DeKalb County Education.
And that was a quick turnaround, because that was my biggest issue last year when we met.
Right.
It wasn't even a year ago. I'm like,
Right.
that's so dangerous.
Well, I'm glad you think it was quick. I was looking for a little faster turnaround than that.
No, I have low expectations.
But I'm learning too in this position. So before we break and begin the networking and assemble outside, I do want you to really seriously consider this challenge. This is really important. And thank you again, Lily, for your effort.
Thank you. Anytime.